Hello, everybody. It's Laurie White back again with episode number 89 of Chamber TV. And today we are doing part 2 of self-care, wellness, planning, strategic planning, all about you in the new year. And we're thrilled to welcome back Katie McDonald. And Katie McDonald is the founder of bnourished, which is a wellness boutique. And she is a holistic executive coach and a self-care strategist and a frequent guest here on Chamber TV. Last week, we had a wonderful session with Katie talking about taking stock of where we've been over the course of the prior year, looking at our journals, looking at our planners, trying to figure out what patterns emerged and how we can show up in 2021 as a more authentic version of ourselves, ready to go and ready to be super strategic and get stuff done. So with that, let me introduce Katie. Welcome back, Katie. It's always great to see you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be back. I felt like we needed to ready ourselves for this point, that we did a really thorough deep dive into what our year was last year. If you didn't have a chance to watch it, watch it. But I would encourage you to just be present with where you are right now and understand that we're going to focus on how to craft the year ahead using information that we get by studying the year previously. So let's get started. We're going to use this time to really level up. We have had the opportunity to look back and say, you know what? What's ahead for us? Who do I want to be in the coming year? You see, we get to decide that. We actually get to decide who we want to be, what version of ourselves we want to bring to the world, how we want to show up. And this requires us to have some time to really consider and reflect instead of react. If you're not crafting your life, you're living out someone else's plans for you. Ouch. But the fact is, it's true. I really want to encourage you to step into the privilege and the honor. It is absolutely not only the privilege and honor, but it's also a responsibility to say, you know what, I'm going to leave my mark in this world, the unique mark that only we can live, and the only legacy that we can bring, that has to come from us, and it has to come from intentionality. Because if we're reacting, we're giving our power away. We're actually just, I love the kind of creativity and flow that comes when we let loose. It's not about being really rigid. It's about being really intentional. So I'm going to share with you the bnourished methodology for annual planning. We did the first part. This is part 2. This is about the year ahead. So it's going to be reviewing just a little bit. Then we're going to talk about tools and resources and habits and people and organizations and growth. We talked about these last time, but we did it through the lens of looking backwards. And now we're looking forward. We're projecting ourselves out into December 31st. 2021, and really asking ourselves, like, what do we want to be proud of when we look back, right? That's what we do. We're looking, we project ourselves out to our future self and say, you know what, I'm going to look in each of these areas and I'm going to figure out how to level up and to leverage all of this. And then we're going to talk about implementation, because we could learn all day long, but actually how to bring this vision that we're going to craft to life. And then actually how we translate it into the quarterly planning, and then conclusion and Q&A. So let's get started. So this is an opportunity for us to slow down. We are, well, most of us are addicted to busyness. I certainly was, and I continue to fall into that pattern, especially this time of year, of just the frenzy, the holidays, the business, wanting to wrap up the year. But here's our opportunity to actually just say, you know what, I'm going to spend some time now that's going to save me endless of hours and days. When we look at, let's just invest a weekend into this journey, or maybe 3 hours. We did maybe 3 hours last time. We want to do another 3 hours. Any variation, anything that we do that can bring this kind of intentionality will be worthwhile. It will be one of the best investments that you can make in your future self. So I have that cup of tea to remind you just to slow your roll and to give yourself space to have the room for your dreams and for the visions for your life. But I also want to let you know that one of my tricks for my annual planning is I actually go on a trip. I'm not doing it this year, but I will book a hotel. I look for a really posh, fun, elegant hotel that has really low prices this time of year because most people aren't traveling. I typically do this the second week of December. And I find this hotel, get a great deal, book it well out in advance, ask for a room by the water, and I stay 2 days, and one night, 2 days. Get there early, and the entire purpose, day one is devoted to the reflection, day two is devoted to crafting that vision. So it's one of my favorite things to do. I consider it a really sacred date with myself. And I've got to tell you, those 2 days have paid off over and over again because we get this idea of who we want to be and we devote ourselves to it. It becomes this beacon that every choice we make is anchored back into those 2 days of reflection and strategy. And what we're talking about now is the strategy piece. So the review part, we now have this opportunity to say, you know what? This is who I want to be. This is how I want to show up. These are the people in the company that I want to keep. This is the mark I want to leave. We have to really go back to look at like what's happening now. How am I doing in all areas of well-being? How am I doing in my career? What's my financial situation right now? Have I tended to my finances or have I gone into avoidance mode? How's my nutrition? We're going to look at these habits and just say, have I set myself up for success? The fact is, in every goal that we have and every vision that we have, I'm going to assume that it's all on the foundation of exceptional self-care. And if you're not really doing what you need to do, these basic foundational things that are so easy to forget about, we're not talking about perfection here. We're talking about tending to the responsibility of our physical selves, our mental selves, our spiritual selves, because without that, we have really hindered ourselves. It's like tying our hands behind our back if we don't have the sources of energy and vitality that come from exceptional sleep, nutrition, exercise, these really basic stuff. That again is so easy to blow off in the name of productivity and busyness. They're actually the levers we need to pull so that we can project ourselves forward. So I'm going to ask you to keep that when you start crafting this idea for what it is that you want in the coming year. Then I'm going to ask you to really make sure that you have covered the bases when it comes to the exceptional self-care habits. So this is the time when we get to dream. I don't want mediocrity here. My tagline is because mediocrity is beneath you. And the reason I do that is I want to wake us up to our tendency to bring exceptional, high-level skills and attention and gifts to everything that we do in our work, with our families, in our relationships. And we often tend to just leave the crumbs for ourselves. And I'm asking you to say that standard for exceptional, for what you give out, I'm going to ask you to actually hold that same standard for yourself. We tend to give generously and then leave the mediocrity to it. And I'm asking you to wake up, if that's you, wake up and decide that actually you're going to align the two, that you're going to be more in alignment with standards that you have in the way that you give, and also in the way that you give to yourself. So dream big, be unapologetic about what it would take for you to be this high version of yourself. And again, not perfectionist. We don't want to go there. What we do want to go is say, you know what is it that I want to make sure I tend to? What would I regret if I didn't do? So I actually have my clients, this is a tough one, they don't like it so much, but I actually ask them to identify the key stakeholders in their lives. And so the constituents in their lives. And what I mean is their children, their spouse, their employer, or their employees, their community leaders. And I want you to imagine that they're all gathered in a room and they're there at your memorial. Morbid, but here's the thing. It gives us, we've all been there. We've watched other people's lives be encapsulated at a memorial. Well, what if that were you? What do you want these people to say about you? we don't have a lot of control over what they actually say or how they experience it, but we do have 100% control over how we live our lives. And so what I discovered when I do this, and I actually do it every year, and I ask every reluctant client to do the same thing, is that we look at this and we say, oh my gosh, there are themes over and over again. We're hearing consistently what people are asking that other people would remember them by. And so when we do that, we actually get to see like, oh, this is what truly matters to me. This exercise is a really powerful one because it really drills down on the legacy that we want to leave. If you're not currently living up to that, it's okay. Again, don't weaponize this exploration. If we do that, we're really going to prevent the opportunity for growth. We want to simply change the way we change. We want to notice it and say, oh, wow, but now I have a vision, right? That version of you is the you that you want to be. And you may be like a tweak off or a major overhaul off, but you now know these are the things that deeply matter to you. These are the things you need to defend and advocate for in this mama bear, beautiful way. So the general questions here are like, who do I want to be at the end of this year? What do I want to most be proud of, most be grateful for? And that's at this stage, this big vision that we have for ourselves at this stage. And now we're going to drill down into all the other aspects of it about how we buttress that big vision. So tools and resources. If you recall, when we looked back, we said, okay, what are these tools that I'm using? I'm talking about apps. I'm talking about your technology. It might be services that you use your cable company. So it could also be the, let's say you're doing meal kits. Is that working for you? All these different things we looked at and decided, were they working for me? And now we're saying, you know what new tools and resources might I need? When we have this big vision of ourselves, let's say we want to get in the greatest kind of physical shape that we could. Well, that has a lot of components to it. So we want to look at those tools and resources. Might we need to hire a coach or a trainer? What kind of skills do I want to develop? That's referencing the personal growth, but this is the place where we actually look at this and say, wow, if I want to be better about financial management, then there are things I'm going to need to learn. There are experts I'm going to need to bring in. Books I might read, etc. So we want to look at everything. Do I have a planner that supports my planning and my strategy? How these tools and resources are designed to actually be in direct correlation to the big vision that you have for yourself. So let's say you really want to double your sales growth in your business. Okay, well, that's going to require some tools and resources. Using the same tools and resources you used last year are unlikely to actually get you where you want to go so that you could double your sales growth. So let's look at that and say, okay, what wasn't serving us? We looked at last time, but what do I need now? And how do I get that? What person might I need? And that will switch us into this next area. So our habits. How are our habits setting us up for success, or actually are they distracting us? And by habits, I mean your morning routine, your nighttime routine, what time are you going to bed? What are you feeding yourself? This is back to that self-care foundational core of what is it that we're doing day in and day out, because our habits define who we are. So when we have a bigger vision for ourselves, then the fact is we've got to change our habits to be in alignment with them. We have to level up our habits when our vision is bigger than where we are right now. So people, myself included, would love to change without having to give up, right? So when we're adding new habits in, something has to go. There's only so much capacity. I believe in abundance, but I'm also a realist. So every yes is a no, as we've said in other webinars. So what are we saying yes to? And what do we have to let go of? What habits do we need to embrace to be this more evolved version of ourselves? And what habits do we need to stop? Because they're very clear obstacles, right? That they're not going to get us where we want to go. So we studied what worked and what didn't work last year when we reflected on that at our last session. So now we're saying, okay, well, in order to be the best shape of my life, okay, what's that going to mean? Well, my habits are going to change. If I've been a couch potato, well, obviously that's going to change. Do we then commit to 3 hours a day of working out? No, we don't. But a habit needs to be consistent exercise. right? When we drill down at the quarterly level, we can get even more concretely at that point. But at this point, it's like, are my habits lined up to position me to be this level of success? If we find we're addicted to caffeine, then we're never really going to know what our true energy sources are. So if we really want to feel energetic and filled with vitality, then our habits have to be in line with that. We've got to look at whether we're fueled by caffeine or we're actually fueled by exceptional sleep and great nutrition. So the habits are everything. They define our ability to be successful or not. And I want to remind you that these habits that we're going to embrace, they don't have to be huge. They don't have to be daunting. We don't want to shut ourselves down. We actually want to set ourselves up to feel encouraged and inspired. And when we see our own growth, we actually are more likely to stay in the game, stay committed. So again, this annual strategy, it's a little nebulous. I used to do these annual planning, and then the ideas would be so big and so daunting, and a year is a long time. And that's why I've broken it down into quarterly. So we're taking this big vision. We reviewed last year. Now we're taking this big vision for this year. But at the quarterly level is where it gets legs, where we bring it down to actually making it happen. So we'll talk about that more, but the habits will make or break us. So the question here, and many other questions around our habits, is, are they aligned with what we're asking of ourselves? If we're expecting ourselves to back to the double the sales growth, then we've actually got to be well rested. That would be one example of something that we need to do. We would maybe need to commit to more networking. So lots of different business applications. But again, if your self-care habits aren't at its core and you're not rock solid in that piece, then it's important that we make those the priorities, in addition to some of the other things that you want to accomplish for the next year. So people and organizations, if you recall last time, we looked at the people that are in our lives, and now we're going to say, well, who do I want to bring into my life? What people, what company do I want to keep to actually support the life that I'm building, this vision that I have in my business and in my personal life? We want to look at our organizations and say, okay, these organizations, we've been very discerning. We're looking at our organizations and saying, so I mean the chamber as a great example, any clubs, any other volunteer opportunities, any places that you might be serving on the board, or any connection to. We want to ask, how can I contribute more, and how can I extract more out of it? We want fewer, right? Instead of having this big, we want to keep it narrow. We don't want to disperse our energy everywhere. We want to be very discerning and selective. So make your commitments now. Identify that charity or two or three that's deeply important to you that you want to devote yourself to. Identify those people that maybe you don't have in your life right now, but you find really intriguing. They might be people that you envy or respect. I love envy. I find it really powerful because other people have what we want, and it's just that envy is an indication of, you know what? There's something there. There's something there. I want to be curious about that. Not because I want to belittle myself or feel less than. I actually am being given this little window into what I want in my life. If I'm envious of something, jealous of someone, then chances are I want my version of that. And so the more that we are reflective and strategic, we can actually pursue that. We can name that. I was envious of a very good friend who is an acupuncturist. And before I started this path, I wanted to help people. And that's what I discovered. I didn't want to be an acupuncturist, although I respect it and appreciate it as a treatment. I didn't want to do that. But what I was jealous of is the position that she had, the expertise that she had to be able to give and change lives. So I needed to do my version. If I had shamed myself for the envy and the jealousy, then I would have shut down a huge, huge opportunity for insight about how I could level up and how I could do me in a higher version of myself. So people and organizations, this is wonderful. Be respectfully discerning about who you let into the fortress of your life, because the fact is they will shape you. And you want to make sure that when you have this dream for your life, that you are fortifying yourself with the people that can help you elevate and the people that you can help, so that you can be a partner in their dreams too. Makes for deeply rewarding and less diluted life when we're spreading ourselves so thin that we have so little to give. So growth. The fact is, we need to be deeply, deeply committed to our own growth. It's absolutely vital that we look at the year ahead and say, look, I believe in Kaizen, right? The opportunity, the concept of continuous improvement, investing in ourselves. This is the chance to say, okay, well, if I want to be the top of my game, or I want to become a public speaker, let's say, okay, well, if you've not done that before, then you're going to have to commit to some skills. Let's say you're not comfortable speaking. Okay, well, then that's really important, right? That commitment to growth requires, like, wow, there are skills that I have that I need to suit up for. If we had everything we needed at this point, if we had every skill, every person, every internal resource, it probably wouldn't be so exciting. I want our vision for our life to be audacious, aspirational, challenging, but in that sweet spot where it's not so overwhelming or so daunting that we shut down. We've got to find that. What is that for us? How do I know when it feels this like wonderful, like grasping, but in this like really grounded, intentional, rooted way? And the fact is, we need to invest in ourselves, in time, in money. We are the makers and the creators and the implementers of our dreams. And our dreams influence everybody else. It helps give permission to everybody else to set their own audacious goals for the year. The own, just racy, delicious vision for their life. And that's why we're here. I mean, I truly believe that's why we're here. And I also believe that we have an obligation to ourselves and all the people that we serve to level up, to constantly look for opportunities for us to grow. So this is the time where you say, okay, well, if I have this big vision for my life, what skills do I need to develop? What experts exist that I might know on a national or international level that I need to learn from? I go deep in this category of goal and vision creation, because it really does require us to learn new skills and to seek out resources. So I identify who are the people that I can learn from in my direct circle, who are the people that I don't know, but I really want to grow into. They might have webinars and seminars and books, and how can I get access to those resources that will help me on my path for personal growth? Failure is a tricky thing. I don't really believe in it. I certainly have said, like in my frail and vulnerable moments, oh my God, I failed. And you know what? We just take a moment and say, you know what? I really do believe the only failure is not committing to a courageous act of having a dream. And the failure comes when we can't look back and say, like, this is how I've grown. That is the one criteria for a successful year for me, is that I can actually document growth in any aspect. I want to document growth. I want to be able to say, like, I've grown personally, spiritually, I've become a better friend, anything, even just one iota. And we celebrate that growth. We elevate that growth. We expect that of ourselves, and we love the journey when we do it, because we need to be fed back in this positive feedback loop that, like, oh yeah, everything I do, it does matter. It is, when I grow, I actually grow my capacity to serve. I grow into the full potential of who I am. It makes life far more interesting when we actually show up and identify this elevated version of ourselves, and then watch ourselves step into it. It's incredible. You start feeling the ways in which maybe you let your power go. You abdicated your power in some way, and here you are stepping back into it saying, oh yeah, This is the greatest artwork I will ever create, my life. And when you create and then watch it come into reality and are committed to doing the steps, letting the habits go you need to let go, adding the new habits, adding these new tools and resources, or doubling down on the ones that you have, investing in relationships and also in organizations, like, you discover this systematic approach to actually bringing it to life. So implementation, I then go through and I extract every action step from each of the answers. So if you actually send me an email at katie@bnourished.com, you're going to get, and just put in the headline that it's chamber, I'm going to send you the questions that I use every single year, the prompts that I use to elicit these answers. Because when you go through the first step of all the questions that I provided in reviewing past year, and then you embrace these questions and study these questions going forward, the answer for the life you want, it just spills out. We have to become curious and a bit detective-like, Sherlock kind of curiosity about our own lives, and then extract, like, oh yeah, this is how I want my year to be. This is who I want to be. This is how I want to show up. This is the kind of friend, a person, spouse I want to be, business leader I want to be. I then take all of these ideas and I actually create a vision board. So a vision board is a collage of images. And the fact is, images and words that just speak to us, that, like, we get that, like, yes, tingly, yummy feeling, like, yes, this is it. All you need to know is, if you're drawn to it when you're thinking about your year, put it down, put it on this image, and it becomes this visual representation of the life that you're leading. We get amnesia. We talked about this last time. We forget over and over again what it is we set out to do. So creating a vision board, it just locks it in, and the images don't require us to have the words yet. We can't sometimes imagine the life that we're dreaming about. We try. The visual representation is a really powerful tool. And then we start investing in resources. I don't leave my hotel getaway when I do this 2-day retreat. I don't leave until I've ordered the apps. I've downloaded the apps that I need that support me. I do the research about, oh, I want to build muscle and get more, weightlifting. It's like, oh, let me find that app, right? So I find the best app. I look for the trainers. I invest in coaching. Like, I have a coach myself that I use periodically. And so depending on what it is I set out to do, I ask myself, what do I need? What do I need? What will it take? What am I willing to sacrifice? And what am I willing to embrace? So I do an Audible order. In December, Audible has a sale. I love listening to books on tape. I use my car as a university. When I go for walks, I just put them in when I'm cleaning my house. I listen to the books on tape, and every single one, I can track back to that vision for my life that I want. And that's what we want to do. We want to look backwards and be like, oh yeah, okay, this is aligned, right? This is aligned with the skills I need to do. If I want to grow my sales business, I might need to learn new sales techniques. If I want to double my business, okay, well then I'm going to look for the people who are the experts in that field. I'm going to look for them within my own community, and I'm going to look for them at the national and international level. I want to learn from the best. And we have so many best resources right here in Rhode Island. And I love those personal connections, and I want to utilize those and support our fellow Rhode Islanders. And I want to I'll go anywhere to find what I need to do to make sure that I am growing in the direction that I set out to do. Because otherwise it's all talk. I order the books directly. So like, I literally get the books for the year ahead. And I vow to read those books. So I might, I've done in the past, I got mountains of books and it wasn't reasonable, but now I actually look at those habits that I want to develop, and I look at those skills that I need to develop, and I find the books that support that. So we need to learn, we need to invest in the webinars and conferences. Like I plan that out. It's weird now with COVID, but I look for the organizations. What are they offering? And I commit and develop a plan, and I renew and add organizations like we talked about. So doubling down, going deeper. I do all the vision board. I don't do right away. That's part of what I do as a follow-up, but all of those resources and investment, I actually do at the time. I know what my exercise apps are, I'm either using what I've done before or using it again. I know the meditation apps, that I use. All of these, I've got my planner, of course. Make sure you have a planner. The Be Nourished planner is a 90-day planner, because those 90-day cycles are such highly powerful achievement cycles. But find what works for you. That's your job. Find what works for you. So the quarterly planning, I want to get this vision here. Like I've used that word a lot, but that's what we're talking about here. So we have the year, we review what's in the past. We did that last time. And then here's the strategy. Here's this big, audacious, wonderful, delicious vision for our lives that we want. And the quarterly is how we break it up. The fact is the year is made of 4 quarterly, right? Quarterly is 3 months. It doesn't have to be the start of a month. It's just we want to look at, we have 4 90-day cycles in a given year. And that the research supports is the most effective window of focus and concentration. So we leave our planning with this like, wow, this is who I want to be. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm wearing. This is how I'm showing up. These are the organizations I'm in. This is how I'm involved in it. These are the people I've surrounded myself with. Like really create this beautiful, detailed, meticulous idea of who you're going to be this coming year. And the quarterly planning part is, okay, now how are we going to actually make this happen? So it's really important that we actually do the plan for first quarter. So you've done your big vision and now we've got to drill it down. Okay, well, how are we going to take that big vision and what are we going to do for the next 90 days to bring that to life? What will it take? And then we walk through this whole quarter, similar to what we've just done, we just do again. So let's say again, your goal is to grow your business, double your business. Okay, well, what are you going to do for the next 90 days to do that? You might need to hire somebody, and that train somebody, that in and of itself could be one of those goals for the quarterly planning. I believe in doing 3 goals for the quarterly planning. It's what tends to work the most effectively is we take this big vision and then we drill it down into 3 goals. And what does that look like? One might be professional. One might be on the self-care. You might devote this quarterly planning bit. Let's say we say this quarter, Q1, I'm going to focus on sleep. So I'm going to wear an Aura ring because it's going to tell me what my sleep levels are. I'm going to study that. I'm going to get new bedding. I'm going to keep my temperature. I'm going to read books about sleep. Right? Like, can you see how this gets to this ground level? Otherwise, it's just hanging out up here. And what we need to do is actually move forward. And that comes through implementation. Strategy is great, but it's cerebral. And the quarterly planning is how we actually bring it right into implementation. That's how we move our lives forward. It takes courage to define, defend, and unapologetically live your life. The fact is, a lot of people are asleep at the wheel. A lot of people aren't doing this work, but you're actually taking the time, this hour, to learn about a new approach to the methodology for annual planning. So that automatically distinguishes you from the average person who is just kind of bumping along. If you want to walk the path of exceptional, then it requires this. And the hours that you spend, and it doesn't, I do the weekend because frankly, it's super fun and I want to get away from my life. I don't want to have the typical kind of stimulation around me. I don't want people needing anything from me. I shut it down. Like literally nobody can reach me. There's one emergency. Everybody knows this, like define an emergency. But here's the thing. I don't want to be interrupted. I want to give myself room to just dream. I've let go of the past year and now it's like, well, what's possible? This abundant mindset of possibility. This is a courageous act. This isn't for wimps. Again, this is about stepping into the authorship of your own life, to actually writing a story that you love to read, leaving a legacy that makes you proud, letting like the world know that you were actually here and you left a mark. This is about your time, your terms. It's actually supposed to say your turn, but that's okay. Your time, your terms, your time. It's bookend with time because it is. We forget this is the one currency that we have. This is what we can give. over and over again. This is what we have. This is the democracy. We all have the same amount of time. What we do with it is up to us. And so many of us haven't taken our turn. We haven't crafted a life on our terms. And whatever part feels selfish, I want you to just call that back and be like, you know what? It is selfish to not step into a life that I've actually designed. It's selfish because I'm depriving everybody else of the gifts that only I can bring in the way that I do it, with joy and intention. So this really is a worthwhile pursuit. I want to beg you to devote whatever time you deem. If you have an hour, then do it for an hour. And that hour, it will play out for you over and over again, when it'll be worth it. There's nothing else that's going to give you the return on investment than taking the time to actually craft and design a year that reflects who you want to be and how you want to show up. So decide when, where, and how you begin. So again, like I said, I'm not going to a hotel this year in COVID, so I'm going to have to come up with another version of it, and I'm going to just probably claim my bedroom for the day, and just do this kind of work and go through the prompts that I'll provide you. Communicate, reserve, and uphold the date. Make sure, hey, I'm off duty. The phone is off. Nobody can reach me. These are the only circumstances, like house burning down, somebody really sick. Otherwise, leave me alone, because we don't want outside influences. We really want to listen to our own voice here. So you can connect with Be Nourished on LinkedIn, where I send content that really supports this process, so you don't have to feel untethered in any way. Send me an email with the word chamber, and I will send the prompts from looking at your past year, also crafting the new year, as well as how I walk through that retreat, because there might be something there that really resonates with you and can be your guide going forward. Of course, do you make it your own, but I would encourage you to really just extract whatever might work for you. And then use those provided prompts for your in-depth study, and then you can schedule a complimentary session with me. No obligation whatsoever. That's a time that we could drill down, and actually I want to not only share how I work, if you're interested in the coaching, concierge coaching that I offer, but I also want you to have the opportunity to ask any questions that might be pertinent. If you're struggling with defining your morning routine, we can do that together. And then also I want to consider that you get the planner, because anything, use a notebook, do whatever you want, but you need a tool. This is part of the tool and resources. We need something that holds us accountable to the vision for our life, because otherwise it's just wish. It's this ethereal, flimsy little preference instead of this commitment. We need to decide. We need to own it and actually say, this is what I want, and I'm willing to do what it takes to get it. Being deliberate is liberating. Liberate is even in the word, for goodness sakes, right? So some of us feel constrained and tethered by structure. And what I'm saying is, I guarantee you, we all benefit from more structure. Your job is to figure out, how much structure do I need before I feel like I bump up against it feels too much? That's a really, really personal question, and it's up to you to figure that out. But the way we figure it out is we go lean more into structure, and then watch how our lives move forward. Not punishing structure, but flexible, fluid structure that holds us accountable and breaks the amnesia tendencies for forgetting like the life that we actually want, and really rooting that in practices in a 90-day cycle. So thank you. Thanks for doing this deep dive and for exploring new ways in which to approach your year. We need all of us to be at our best. We need to bring our best in a world that's really struggling. And it starts with crafting that vision.
Thank you so much, Katie. I loved all of that. And I do many, many of the things that you are talking about there. So we are kindred spirits, kindred sisters, and in many, we probably even download the same books on Audible. Anyway, I wanted to get to some of the wonderful comments that we have from people here. So Brittany says, hi, Katie, so excited to be here. and to hear you speak. People are loving your energy, Katie. Cindy says she loves the vision board, and it's great to see and hear you today. Great to catch up on and connect Audible to the vision board. So yeah, I love the idea of the vision board. And so some people say, okay, the vision board has to be, sort of, really strategize and hone in on what your big visions are. But then I hear other folks say, no, it wouldn't be a vision board unless you had 60 or 70 great things that you aspire to. So where do you come down on that?
So I tend to get a poster board, and then I actually have an ongoing file. I've been using vision boards. I used to teach a class at RISD on vision boards. I've been using them for years because when I was really desperate and sick and really needed to reinvent my life, basically we need to use every sense we have, and the visual sense really gets us out of our thinking state and gets us into that dream state. Access is another source. So I use a pretty like this cardboard, and then I actually bring it to Staples, and I have them size it so it's 8.5 by 11, and I make multiple copies. So I look at it when I go to bed. It's the first thing I look at when I wake up, the last thing I look at when I go to bed. I have it next to my meditation cushion so that I'm looking at that. I marinate my mind in that vision because I know there's wisdom there that I just don't have the words for yet. The bottom line is there are tons of different techniques to do. If you love that image and it just gets you that warm and fuzzies, then that's it. And it has a message for you. I walk my clients through the process, and it's really, again, tapping into another resource and another sense that can get us aligned and committed.
Yeah, so I made one and I have it on my computer screen. So I got a blank document, and I just downloaded different pictures and images and then dragged them in. And so I can also drag them out too when I'm sick of them, or
yeah, that's great.
I want to change my mind. So anyway, that's how I do it. So then in terms of the vision, I've also heard people say that your visions should be so big that people will laugh at you. And if they're not laughing at your vision, then it's not big enough. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love that to a degree. Like when I leave my retreat, be it at home this year or at a hotel, I think I don't share it. I don't want anybody to know yet. It's fragile, it's tender, and I need to own it and protect it. And then I get to this point where I'm like ready to just like start the implementation. And then I selectively share it with trusted people because I don't know, I think it's a sacred contract with ourselves. And that's why my planner has a place to sign a contract, because we dismiss contracts all the time. And what I want to have happen is actually that I want to honor the contract we have with ourselves and learn how to repair the trust with ourselves. So I think it's this fragile, beautiful thing to protect and then selectively share it. You might have an accountability partner. You might be part of a mastermind group, in which case it would be really wonderful to be able to share those goals. But yeah, it should be juicy and audacious and like outrageous, but it's got to be one that you are all in. And that's why, like, get that big and then drill it down to the 90 days, and then know you're going to have another 90 days and another 90 days and another 90 days to make it all come to life. And that's when it feels possible. That's when we take that big vision and we put legs on it. And I ask my clients, like, what is that future self like? Introduce me to that person. What is he or she wearing, thinking? What type of media is he or she consuming? Like, get me down to minutia. And that's going to help shape those habits and those tools and resource, like give a picture. And the vision board is, again, another way to do that. So yeah, should it be audacious and even obnoxious? Yep. It should. Our tendency is to play small. Our default is to diminish ourselves and to not leverage our superpowers. And this is what we want to dismantle.
Well, it takes just as much brain cell activity and power to think small as it does to think big. So you might as well.
And I would even think more. I mean, I think there's a part, I think we know that we are meant to be just evolved like brilliant, beautiful versions of ourselves. I think the part of us that knows we play safe, it doesn't feel good. I think it actually takes more energy to be less than we're capable of. I really do. And yeah, and that's why we want to be selective about the people that we surround ourselves with. We want to be with people who see the version of ourselves that we can't see yet, who have faith in us when we've lost our way.
Of course, there is the theory that life is what happens when you're making other plans.
Yes. Yes.
How life gets in the way and things that we don't expect come, like, we get sick or we lose a loved one or our job in a different direction. And so do you build into your planning ideas on mindset so that you can fortify yourself?
Oh, yes. That's one of the questions. What mindset do I need to cultivate in order for me to accomplish what I want to accomplish? No question. And the fact that we have the 90 days is because we can pivot. Like, we need to pivot. We need every 90 days. What worked? What didn't work? In fact, it's down to the weekly level. What works? What doesn't work? Why? Because we want to study ourselves. Again, we don't want to fall into the tendency to amnesia and to go into la la land. When I did just annual planning and I came up with 3 goals, I mean, honestly, like we said last time, 60% of people by January 15th have forgotten what their resolutions were. So it's like, I would have this burst in January of just excitement and schoolgirl kind of energy. And then in the fall again. And then in between, like February, March, like what did I have no memory as to what I set out to do. So we've got to come up with every way. You might even pick a watch or a piece of jewelry that you don't normally wear that represents this goal. Anything that we can do, this talisman that's going to keep us tethered and connected. But in some ways we forget the goal and we just drill down on the habits, and that's why it's so habit centric. That's what I think is, we can have these big visions, but day to day, we really need to just commit to the habits that are actually going to make that vision become our reality.
So we are talking with Katie McDonald, and she is a holistic executive coach and a self-care expert. We are live on Facebook, we are live on Twitter, and we are live on YouTube. We are taking comments, and I encourage anyone that's listening that wants to pose a question for all of us to learn and dissect, please do that. Liz weighs in, Katie, she said, do a vision board on a big actual poster board or do on something like Pinterest. So you already talked about how you actually have a physical document and you.
Yeah, and then I shrink it down in multiple copies. I tuck one into my planner. And it's funny because I'll often do multiple vision boards throughout the year. And they're part of kind of how I've evolved. And you can tell when you really commit to one particular vision board, like it's done. Like you just know it's had its life. And I actually write kind of the context, what was going on during that time. And I've kept every single vision board I've ever done. And because I copy it into on a color copy, I just tuck it into a plastic sleeve and it's like a diary. And it really aligns with my planner. Like it keeps referencing and toggling back and forth as evidence of my growth. And when we have, as I said before, we have evidence of our growth, we have hope, regardless of what's happening around us, we have hope in our ability to thrive and not just strive and survive.
Well, obviously you find that this technique works for you or else you wouldn't keep doing it year after year. Right, but we couldn't possibly have known that we would be going through a pandemic. So how did you do, by the way, last year? So you're off this time of year, you're at a very nice hotel, you're doing spa-like stuff, and you have all these things that you've created. So year, now here we are a year later. Is it worth the effort, I guess is what I'm asking.
Yeah, it's actually all come to life. I mean, I brought it to life. I had, it was a couple of weeks where I was disoriented and all of a sudden I was like, wait a minute, who do I want to be on the other side of this? I started bringing in my annual planning techniques. I really got clear. I asked all my clients, who do you want to be on the other side of this? Pandemic is going to end. Who do you want to be on the other side? And I got really clear. Those same goals that I laid out, I wanted to launch a planner and a digital course. I wanted to lose weight. I had been hanging on to weight. And every single year, by the way, I had the same goal around the weight loss. And I couldn't do it. I would get there and then I would pull back. And I knew it was like, this has to be the year. And then when the pandemic hit, it was like, okay, game on. So I've lost 50 pounds this year. And that was because I set out to do that last year. But then I actually brought it to life. I launched the planner and the course. Like, I just doubled down because yes, does it matter what's happening? Absolutely. But I actually think what's happening, because I have the privilege of not being out in the trenches, I can pull back. My business pivoted really quickly and easily to digital. I was already doing that because I work with clients all over the country. So I really believe I have a responsibility, because I'm in that privilege of not being in the world and having to be in the world to serve and keep it going, that I had to work harder, that I actually had to up my game so that the people that are doing the work that I don't have to do, they can step back on the other side. I needed to make this time count. And I took all the external distractions that are now gone, and I channeled that into the goals that I set. And this has been one of my most successful years as a result. So I decided to leverage the pandemic. And, because otherwise I didn't want to be victim to it. I know what it's like to play victim. And instead I simply said, no, I'm going to ride this wave. I'm going to make it work for me. I'm not going to let it break me. I'm going to let it make me.
Well, all of us here on the other side of that comment want to know, wow, I mean, that's amazing. 50 pounds. Tell us, how did you do that? That's an amazing commitment to self. Brittany said,
honestly,
oh my God, I lost 50 pounds since Christmas too, says Deborah. I feel so successful. So all of you, what does it take to really do that?
I used my planner. I literally was like, this is for and the majority of it I lost in 90 days. So really 40 pounds in 90 days. And that was like my goal. That was it. It was like, that was one of my 3 goals. And what did it do? I had to make a commitment. I had to say, I have 3 goals for the next 90 days. And this is, I'm committing to this. And that means I have to say no to all other things. And it was also part of riding the wave. Like, I'm not in the world. I am the only one making my own food, serving my own food. And I have 100% control over what I consume. So it really did require me to make a vision board to give me the visual representation. Because frankly, 50 pounds ago, I wanted to believe that I could see myself being 50 pounds lighter, but I really needed visual representation. I took bodies that represented what I wanted to create and put my head on it. I cut and paste when I do a vision board. And I had a word, my one word, that was completely aligned with the life that I wanted to do and create. So I needed my body to catch up with the big audacious goals that I had for this year. And I had them kind of it became an identity shift. It's like, okay, well, if I'm going to bring this planner to the world, and I'm going to bring my work that I have been studying for years to the forefront, I need to get in front. And I don't want to hide behind fat. I don't want to hide when I have an important message to bring to the world and a tool to share. So I made my goals intertwined. And when I did that, I created a really strong net and tapestries to hold me up.
That is amazing. That is truly amazing. Deb says she does tracking with Weight Watchers. She tracks, quote, every bite, lick, and taste. So that's the ultimate in accountability for sure. So.
Yeah. So using apps that are food tracks. That's one of the things I do. I have my clients do because again, we have amnesia. We can't change what we don't track. Tracking my habits, that's why it's woven into my planner. It's like, okay, well, in order to become the person that's capable of losing 50 pounds, I need to have the habits of somebody who is 50 pounds lighter. And that means every day working out, not hardcore. I wanted it sustainable, but lifting weights every day, doing cardio, walking, listening to the audiobooks, marinating my mind with a different mindset, because my old mindset got me 50 pounds heavier. So I have to bring in new tools, new resources, new habits, new people. I have clients that have, opted. We do an experiment of 90 days of no drinking. And when they start running that through the filter of the people inventory, it's like, wow, they've surrounded themselves with people who drink and drink a lot. And all of a sudden those relationships, they have to change because it's harming them. And so, that's one of the things about how it's all woven together is we have to look at all these threads. And those threads make up our life. And, we want to wrap ourselves in it at the end of the year and actually like what we see and feel warmth and nourishment from it. And that's where the intentionality comes in. Reactivity is the way of the world, and we have to do different. We have to choose different to be different.
All right. Folks listening, I won't ask Katie any more questions about how she lost 50 pounds unless you have a specific question. So if you want to know more, write it in the chat box and we'll get to it. But I do want to mention Kathleen's comment. She says, you've encouraged me to get out of autopilot on parts of my life. Thank you so much, Katie. Great comment, Kathleen. So my question at this point, Katie, is, we've talked about a lot of self-reflection, the mark you want to leave on the world. What if you don't know what mark you want to leave on the world? What if you come up blank? What if you don't have the to really take this on? It seems a little scary.
Yeah, totally get that. Here's the thing. It sounds daunting, and I use a lot of daunting words, and I actually do believe that kind of legacy idea that gets me, let me at it. Here's the thing. I spent decades trying to figure out what my purpose was. And not only decades, but hours on the therapist couch, just constantly contemplating my belly button, not changing anything, but studying and contemplating my belly button, but not implementing anything different. And then I landed on a truth that I share with my clients and share in my work, which is we all have a collective purpose in life, and that is to be the most evolved version of ourselves. And that might be 1% better than we were the day before. That's it, in one area. So if we drank 1 glass of water, well, today we're going to drink 2 glasses of water. And that in and of itself, we are fulfilling our destiny. We are evolving, we're studying ourselves, we're reflecting, and we're strategizing. How can I level up? How can I contribute more meaningfully to myself? Really, because if we're giving and we haven't invested in ourselves, then we're giving fumes. We're giving fractional pieces of ourselves. And frankly, if you're not taking care of these foundational habits, the ones we all know, the sleep, the drinking water, the moving your body, the mindfulness, if you're not doing those things, you have no business doing anything else, taking on any other organization, slow the world the next 90 days, just make it your business to be the healthiest you can be. Because by the way, we're in a pandemic, right? So let me answer that question. Your purpose is to be more evolved than you were the day before. That's it. So what does that mean for you? That's up to you to figure out. If there's something that's intriguing to you, do it. When you ask for the pages that I can send you with all the prompts and you send me that email, there's an exercise with the whole life assessment. And it's in the first pages of my planner too. It enables you to look at it and say, hey, let me evaluate myself. How am I doing in these key areas of well-being? And that will give you those indentations when you mark it all out and look at it and say oh, this gentle self-assessment, this gentle inquiry is revealing there are areas in my life that I need to address. Great. Let that shape your goals. Let that shape your purpose. But we need to step into our full potential. And the way that we get there is by showing up every day, saying, I'm just going to do better. The only one we need to compare ourselves to is the version that we had yesterday and the future version that we've outlined for ourselves. And when we stay anchored in reflecting and both of those, right, consulting the future self, reflecting on the past self, then we're good. That's all we need to do. Shut out the other voices, right? Consider the people that you love, that core group of people. Ask them, is there something that you notice that you wish for me? I have my clients do this, a friend survey and a family survey. The people who love us most usually have really pretty good opinions and ideas about what they wish for us. And then we get to reflect and choose, oh, that's interesting. I would like to grow in that way. Oh, I need to be a better listener. Oh, I need to slow down. They watch us in a way that we can't. They bear witness in the way that we're too close. So that's also another way to get some insight. But you're the expert on you. You decide. how you want to grow and evolve. But growth is the legacy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you made an important distinction there. You said purpose. What is my purpose in life versus what is the mark that I want to leave on life, or what mark do I want to leave on the world? I think that's a little bit more accessible to grasp.
Yeah. And that is the mark we leave, right? Like when we're us and we do us, then like we've left our mark, that the world will be different when we've left, right?
Absolutely. So just one more point to pick on, just to be a contrarian. We talked about, and this I love, in order to accomplish more, you actually have to subtract, not add. To the whole notion of what you got going on. So every yes is a no, every no is a yes. I think that's a really important point to emphasize, because a lot of us, when we want to craft a new some new goals, some new projects that we want to take on, we end up by overloading ourselves. So we've got like twice as much going on as we had originally. So go through, the subtraction exercise, and then address the idea of the guilt.
Yeah, guilt is I like guilt. I want you to lean towards guilt. I want you to feel guilty when you say yes for yourself. You feel guilty, great. Like that's okay. That's an indication you're on the right path. We do, the reason that I do the 90-day is, break down this big vision into a 90-day is, and then into 3 goals. It's like, that's it. It gives us these blinders. We don't need more information. We don't need more big dreams beyond that one. Like, let's hunker down. Let's do what we set out to do and have fun and joy in doing it. So I commit to those 3 goals and I drill down, and then I let go of everything else that I can. And the reason I do that is my tendency is to put too much, like literally on my plate and metaphorically on my plate, on my calendar. I am addicted to too muchness, and I have developed this methodology so that it can't, I have to parent myself. I cannot do that in this system because I challenge myself to say for the 90 days. And so I have to, this is what you're doing. And it's so helpful for me to say, it's okay. You've got another 90 days. You can do that. The next 90 days. So the part of me that's like, well, what about this? And don't forget this. And oh, I want to do this. Like, oh yeah, honey, it's okay. You have another 90 days to do that. But right now, this is what we said we're going to do. I mean, this is literally how I talk to myself. This is why I have all the prompts that I do in the planner to just it's okay. It's all right. This is what I'm holding you accountable to. These 3 goals. That's it. Right? They're big, but just this. And that's how we say no, because we know how to say no to ourselves. And what I'm saying is okay, how about we say no to other people and say yes to ourselves? So because just like I said about this pandemic, I want to be proud of myself on the other side. Not perfect, but proud. And the way that I'm proud is I said I was going to do something and I did it. That's how we get proud of ourselves. And that's far more important than pleasing everybody else, because you'll never do it. But pleasing yourself and then giving from that place of bounty, that you can do.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. So we are almost at the end of our time together, Katie, but I just want to follow up on some of the things that you advised people to do. First was to download your the sheets that you have so graciously provided to our chamber members. So these are downloads that people can take a look at. They can tuck them in their own, their own planners, if you will, and start this exercise of self-discovery. And I guess the whole notion is don't be afraid of what you're going to learn about yourself once you start to marinate on some of these questions and topics. And again, I'm sure that even 2 days is probably not enough to get through all of these prompts. So send a note to Katie, send an email to her with the tagline chamber, and she will send you all of those great notes. And then I want to just tell you, Katie, how much I'm enjoying the planner. I really like it. And there's so much in there to sink your teeth into. And every day there's a motivational quote. I'll just read a couple. The less you do to a food, the more it does for you. So obviously you learn that as you lost a significant amount of weight in a short period of time. Stand up to the bully in your head. I love that. That's That's good. We all bully ourselves, and cravings pass, but regrets linger. So the planner has a lot of, great places to, do some introspection. Oh, how about this one? Choose badass over half-ass every time. That's a good one.
Well, the fact is 100% is always easier than 98%. It just is. Eliminate the suffering. And I love that you brought up the regrets, Laurie, because that in and of itself, what will you regret not doing? That's one of the questions that I ask myself and one of the questions in the prompts. And I got to tell you, that wakes me up every time. Sometimes it's the avoidance of regret. I hate regret. Like I don't want to go there. So what will I regret if I don't do this? And what I told myself is I'll regret not making these dreams of all the years, not making this vision come to life. I can't do it again. I need to make this come to life. And I'm going to use this time. So use this time well. Wake up to this beautiful responsibility to self-discovery, as you said. I love that phrase, self-discovery. It's a privilege and an honor and frankly a responsibility, because an unexamined life, as you said last time, it's not worth living.
Well, I can't sum it up any better than that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to this wonderful conversation. It's so inspirational, and it just gets your mind going in the right direction and just opens up so much possibilities. You have so much energy, Katie. I love it. It's just a treat to listen to you. Every time we've done, how many of these have we done together? Probably is this?
Oh my
15,
gosh.
17?
Yeah, I think so. And I love it every time, Laurie. Thank you.
We've covered a lot of ground. So anyway, we will circle back with you in a few weeks to see how you did in your bedroom this time around, because you can't do anything fancy. You're going to go to the spa. You're going to have to confine yourself to a part of the house and wall yourself off and do all your planning for the year. So I hope you'll come back and talk to us a little bit more and give us some additional tips, because, hey, God knows this is a very difficult time for everybody, and the degree to which we take care of ourselves and we try to keep our spirits up and keep one another's spirits up is so important to all of us. And I'd like to think that, through the chamber, we're doing all these things to help members not only, keep their business going and rethink ways that they are approaching their business, and give folks the tools that they need to straighten out their finances or access COVID CARES money grants, or linking them to people and subject matter experts on any number of topics. But also we're giving chamber members an opportunity to, be present to one another, to have that collegiality, to have that companionship during the day, so that none of us feels as though we are alone during any stretch of that. So this subject matter is really welcome. A lot of people are talking about it and, writing in and saying, hey, thanks, I really enjoyed that. It's a subject that's a little bit different. It's not COVID related, so it's welcome. It's kind of like a balm for the mind, if you will. And
Laurie, we need hope, right? I mean, we can't control the pandemic, but we can control the vision that we have for our life. Like it readies our minds, so we're not looking at all the headlines, and instead we're looking to our future at a time that feels so daunting and miserable if we go there, right? Yeah.
As they say, we
thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we have to laugh or else we will cry. So, and we don't want to do that. But there's so much hope, hopefully, there's so much hope. So we will invite you back at some point. And I want to thank everybody for writing in. And Kathy says, thanks for this presentation. So I know that people are, in fact, watching and enjoying, even if they're not necessarily weighing in the chat box. So also, just a reminder, discussion number 1, part 1 of our meeting with Katie and the work that we talked about in reviewing the prior year, that's available on chamber website, propchamber.com. In fact, all of the 89 episodes that we have done on Chamber TV, they're all available there for your perusal. Just some night, just download any of the pieces that we've done, and I guarantee you'll feel better after you watch it. So watch part 1 of Katie, then reflect on where you are in part 2, and I know that you'll find it to be enjoyable and rewarding, and it'll light a fire under you. So anyway, that's it for today. Take care, everybody. See you next time.